Hey everybody, and welcome to another episode of a double feature. This week, as you already know, we've been taking a look at M. Night Shyamalan's The Sixth Sense, and hopefully you've been able to watch the film, and hopefully you've headed over to our website and been able to read our reviews. And so now's the time of the week when we get together and talk about whatever's on our mind. And with that being said, Derek, I've got my first question for you. A lot of people say, Sixth Sense was, Shyamalan's breakout film, even though he did a few films prior. It was his breakout role, huge success, became recognized internationally for it. And then after that, he seemed to have stumbled and lost his way. Would you agree or disagree with that statement?
I'd say that is assuming he even had a way to begin with.
Yikes!
As opposed to just a lucky break.
Okay. He had the one idea that broke him into fame.
Yeah.
Okay.
Calls it like he sees it.
Okay. Because I was able to come across a magazine, an article in Time magazine, and on the cover it mentions the title something like "The Next Big Thing in Hollywood, from Sixth Sense to Signs, Watch Out, Here Comes M. Night Shyamalan," or something like that, So they're referencing 3 movies that he's done in this article, and talking about how, and this writer in particular was saying that, The Village is about to come out. We're excited for that, but his first 3 films have been amazing and incredible, and he's just a great storyteller, and he is a very good director, and he's a good writer. So I was curious if you were going to talk about those 2 movies, but it sounds like not your cup of tea.
No, I enjoyed The Sixth Sense. I thought it was a great movie. Unbreakable, I enjoyed. It had problems, though, that looking back, I can see some of those problems that are starting in The Sixth Sense that get carried over into Unbreakable. And then Signs lost me, and The Village was painful to sit through. And in all honesty, I haven't seen another Shyamalan movie since then.
Oh, man, you're missing out. Lady in the Water's so good.
I'll take your word for it.
Yeah, okay. All right, well, let me, if you don't mind, I'll ask a second question.
Sure.
In your review, you talked about the music. And I was curious, this time watching, I noticed that I almost felt like the music just interrupted the story a little bit. I mean, the story is just so well structured. It's just a very well structured story, but this music almost kind of took me out of the story, and I was like, okay, what was that? And it took me a while to kind of get back in. Did you feel the same way?
Yeah. No, not necessarily. I think, because like I said, I really liked the sound editing, of how they were able to take the everyday sounds and twist them to fit the mood of the movie. I thought as far as the music itself went, it just fit into any other, cliched horror film, where the music gets loud and then drops quiet right before the big shock.
Sure.
So, I wouldn't count that against it. I think it was just trying to fit the genre it was in, even though if the movie itself doesn't nicely fit in the horror genre.
Sure, okay. Yeah, it's interesting. I have a hard time classifying this as a horror movie. Mm-hmm. I know that's what people call it, but I don't know. And maybe my definition of horror is just different than the general public.
Yeah.
But I don't know. This was more of a suspense thriller, and so in my mind, and so the horror music just fell out of place this time watching it around, and I was just like, this doesn't seem to fit as well as I remember it. I mean, it's beautiful music, don't get me wrong, but in the context of the film, it's just, I don't know. I was struggled through it this time around for some reason.
Like I said, this go around, I started picking up on a lot of other things that I missed the first time I had seen it, which is we'll just say a long time ago. And
right.
I think this go around, sort of my appreciation for it just sort of ticks down a notch. I mean, for example, I was watching it with my wife, and once you've watched it once, you know that red is sort of the code, the key for the film.
Right.
And then once you know that, it sort of spoils everything in the film, because you just see how much red is there, and you're like, oh, there's a ghost. There's a ghost. There's a ghost.
Right.
Ghost is coming, and there's no shock anymore. There's no surprise, and it just sort of took all of the fun out of the film. So, I don't know, maybe this is just a one-watch film.
Yeah, it's funny you mentioned that, because in The Village, too, he's kind of got this love affair with the color red, and at times that can be distracting as well. But I agree with you. It's one of those movies where you watch it once and you're like, okay, wait, I gotta watch it again, but after you watch it a second time, it's not like, what's a good movie to choose? I gotta be careful here. It's not like The Dark Knight for me. Mm-hmm. I can watch The Dark Knight over and over and over again and still find that joy and satisfaction and happiness from the first time I watched it.
Mm.
That's one of those movies for me. But this movie, I think you're right. A few times, and it's like, okay, I see and I learn and I got it. Now it's not as interesting anymore. And the Bruce Willis ending wasn't as fun this time around either. I mean, it was still fun to see the build up, and now you're like, oh, I noticed all these things, but I don't know, it's not as fun.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, you noticed a lot of inconsistencies, which you mentioned in your reviews, or your review. One of the biggest problems that I had was like, well, how come we show the wife being cold at the end, but the wife's never cold throughout the rest, So there were some things where I just was like, oh, that's a bummer. I wish I didn't know that, because now the movie's not as great in my eyes anymore.
Yeah. Well, and the famous scene in the hospital, I see dead people. Sometimes they don't even know they're dead. Now we have to tack on another qualifier to that, and sometimes when he says, he would have to say, and sometimes I don't even know that they're dead.
Right.
Which
no, that's true.
Sort of deflates his entire psychosis. Well, let me, because you pointed this out, I didn't even touch this in my review. Well, because I didn't. When you said at the very end, they have to, you use the metaphor of they had to crack open all of the eggs.
Yeah.
You say, this is how we did it. Were you paying attention? Here's the key.
Right.
Is it you liked that, apparently? This go around, I absolutely despised it. I hated it.
Really?
Well, and I think it's that same thing, because I already knew it.
Well, okay, right.
I had seen it once. Maybe the first time I saw it, I'm trying to remember. The first time I saw it, it might have been a moment. Yeah. The second time, I'm like, I could probably live with it. But I think this was the third time I've seen it, and it did absolutely nothing for me. And again, I think it's just because I already knew the secret. And it's just, you're replaying the entire movie again for me. I don't need this.
Right. Right. I guess I just really like that we have a few directors in Hollywood who believe in wrapping up all their subplots and their main plots. I like that. I like that. I feel like there are directors who, okay, we resolve the main stuff, but let's leave the subplots open because we might do a sequel, maybe. Who knows?
Sure.
I hate that. But I feel like each film should still stand alone.
Yeah.
So I just like that he goes, okay, we've got these 8 problems. They all have to be solved by the end. How are we going to solve all 8 problems? And he solves them all. And he does that. Right. But he does that consistently. He did that in Unbreakable. He did that in Signs. He did that in The Village. He did it in Lady in the Water. He is very good at wrapping up everything.
But don't you also feel that it's something like this? And this is why I think I started just to tune out with all of those other films. For one, it becomes sort of formulaic. It's very formulaic. And two, in my mind, it's equivalent to the magician always showing his tricks. But by the time you hit trick number 2, you recognize this is the same trick. And now you're just being redundant. And so by the time he's like, let me do it number 3, we're just like, you're lame. You're going to do the same thing that you've done twice already.
I see.
And number 4, it's the same thing. And so when we come back to the original one, it's an old hat, and I don't know if it's I'm going to show you all this because I want you in on the secret, or I'm going to show you all of this because I want you to see how clever I am.
All right, everybody. Well, that's it for this week. Thanks for joining us, and let us know what you think in the comment section below. What do you think of M. Night Shyamalan films, and what do you think of his career, and what do you think of The Sixth Sense and him as a storyteller? We'd love to hear your thoughts, so please post down in the comment section below. Also, you can subscribe to our channel here.
Sure. There.
Yeah. You can subscribe to our channel right here. And if you like the conversation and had a good time, you can like us down here. Right? Yeah. Right. And as always, thanks again for joining us. And if you want to follow us throughout the week, see what we're up to, you can find all of our social media links in the notes section below. And until next week, hope you guys have a great time and watch good movies.